And I mean, that's the biggest question of this season is, can Drew Aller take the next step and lead Penn State to where they're expected to go? It's natty or bust, as they all say, but those are the actual expectations of this team. Just like it was for Ohio State last year, just like it was for Michigan the year before that, just like it was for Georgia. Like the teams that are winning national titles are the ones with the expectations to win the national title that year. It's not a big surprise. Nobody was surprised that Ohio State won it last year after they went on the big NIL spree and brought a bunch of guys in and back and retained a bunch of guys. Same thing with Michigan. Michigan brought in some transfers, kept guys just like Penn State's doing. I mean, it's the new blueprint right now. Is keep your veterans, plug your holes with the transfer portal, be a veteran-led team with a ton of experience, and it's worked the last 2 years. And Penn State's just following the new blueprint. It was, go get the new transfer quarterback, or, that's always like the buzzworthy thing to do is, hey, who's got the new fancy toy at quarterback? But if we're really looking at it, even going back to Georgia, it's all about keeping your talent. With NIL, you retain the talent, bring in wide receivers or wherever your hole is, fill it, and make a deep run. It's what college football is right now. It's all about peaks, valleys. You win. Everybody's copying each other. Whatever's working, you copy what's working, essentially. And that's what I don't want to say Penn State's copying, but they're following the blueprint of the last 2 national title winners in Michigan and Ohio State, besides the sign stealing. But that was last episode that we touched on that. But if you look at Ohio State, everything is so similar that it's crazy. Ohio State last year starts off with 3 nondescript games. Penn State starts off 3 nondescript games this year, bringing back a ton of talent. Expectations are set for a reason, and that's why everybody's talking about Penn State and how it's a natty or bust season. It's a great place to be as a Penn State fan. It's something we're not used to, and I don't know if we know how to handle these kind of expectations. We've never been put into a situation where, hey, you're a national title favorite, essentially. And I, for one, am thrilled with it. I love being in this area, but our fan base doesn't know how to handle this. We really don't. From my experience with Penn State fandom, Penn State has never had the reason to be, puff your chest out, we're the best team. And this is the first team in I don't know how long that you can actually say that. Getting back to now, transition over to recruiting to finish the show. Penn State in James Franklin did land a top 100 commit in the 2027 class. They landed a corner out of Pittsburgh, so the best in PA stay in PA. Standout Gabe Jenkins, which actually moves Penn State into the number 1 position in the 2027 recruiting class, which, as we all know, we've been there before when it comes down to this. Just a couple of years ago, we were number 1 for a little bit in the recruiting rankings. And let's face it, Penn State's not the type of team that's going to stay top 3 or 5 in the recruiting. That's just not, it's hard to get a kid to come to State College, no matter how much money you're throwing at him or not throwing at him, or how much he loves James Franklin or loves Penn State. It's hard to get people to State College because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's 2 hours from anything that resembles a normal city. So looking at the recruiting class, it brings Penn State up to 4 commits, possibly 2 of them looking at 5-star status. You got Kijuan Spell, running back out of McKeesport. He is right now surefire 5-star as of right now. Number 1 running back in the country, number 1 running back in the state, number 1 position in Penn State. And it's a running back. Obviously, the Notre Dames, the Ohio State, people are going to be after him. So hopefully Penn State can hold on, keep him in Pennsylvania, because I think that'll be a huge recruiting win, especially over the likes of Notre Dame, where we know Jaquan Sider went over there. So we know there's a relationship there between Spell and Sider. But Penn State also could use a win over Notre Dame in the recruiting after this summer, where Penn State took its lickings from Notre Dame. Looking at the other three recruits, Khalil Taylor, kind of, if you look at his tape, you could see some five-star potential if he really has one of those standout years. Once again, another Pennsylvania kid. And you also have Leighton Van Brandt, a offensive tackle out of Delaware. He was probably the most likely to take that step up and become a five-star and give Penn State 2 5-star recruits as of right now. And then, like we said, Gabe Jenkins corner. It really speaks to, and I know we talked about this last episode where Jim Knowles called out Terry Smith as one of the best assistant coaches he's ever worked with. And that's high praise for somebody that's only been here since January. And bringing in people like Gabe Jenkins only speaks to how good Terry Smith is at what he does. I saw something the other day where Terry Smith and James Franklin are the only two coaches still around from the last time they beat Ohio State in 2016. I mean, it's crazy to think about. We've lost the last 9 against Ohio State. Terry Smith and James Franklin, the only two coaching holdovers. And Terry Smith, he's a quiet guy. You don't hear too much from him, but he always brings in dudes, and the secondary is always a strength of Penn State. And it's only been getting stronger lately. So that's been really cool to see. And, it's always nice to be number one. I mean, we're sitting number 2 in the AP poll right now, number 1 in the 2027 rankings. I think we're sitting like 15th in the 2026 rankings. So, I mean, that's kind of where James Franklin sits. He likes to sit between 8 and 15, 16 in the recruiting rankings and develop some guys. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Touched on, there'll be more coming out from that Josh Payton interview with James Franklin and Drew Aller. Can't wait to see some more of that. Josh always puts out some great content. And you never know when another surprise commit's going to happen. We will come back at you, and Nick will be back here on Friday at 9:30, kind of your late night Penn State show. Once again, want to say thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, review. Channel's growing. We appreciate you guys, and would like, as it keeps growing, we're going to just keep rolling out more and more cool stuff for you guys, like call-in shows. We're planning on doing post-game shows once games start. We might even be looking at doing some pre-game shows. So, we're just a couple guys that like to talk Penn State football. And if somebody else wants to listen to us, that's great. So once again, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe.